All right, we're recording, so I'm going to turn it over to Andrea. Andrea, thanks for joining us today.
All right, thanks so much for having us. Can everybody see the screen and hear me okay? All right. So we will share the slides and any links at the end of this presentation, so no need to take pictures of anything. We'll share all the information as we go through. So thanks so much for joining us. We are here today to talk about some upcoming opportunities in Kentucky for funding for family engagement. So as Quentin said, I'm with the National Center for Families Learning. The Director of Professional Learning, and one of the major roles for me right now is to oversee our preschool development grant. So in Kentucky, we are working with the Governor's Office of Early Childhood to support family engagement through their preschool development grant. And so I'm going to share as we go through today kind of what those opportunities look like. But before we do that, I wanted to also introduce my colleague, Mary Beth. I'll let her introduce herself. She'll also be a primary person working on this grant.
Hello, I'm Mary Beth Stevens. I started to work at the National Center for Families Learning in August after retiring from JCPS, and I had partnered with JCPS previously as a principal of an early childhood center there, and thank the world of the organization, and also know that the Friskies that I worked with in JCPS really found the work of NCFL to align with the requirements of their grant. And so I hope you all see some opportunities in this presentation as well.
So we'll just give a quick background on NCFL. So all of NCFL's work, now I'm tongue-tied, really focuses on multi-generational education. So our goals are to harness the power of multi-generational education to increase success and mobility of families. So we know that parents have the biggest influence on the success of their children, and we want to work together to create high quality opportunities for families to learn together and create those habits and routines that are going to create that generational change. And so in the last couple of years, we have really done some visioning and some strategic planning. And our vision is by 2030 to have coordinated and aligned family learning systems established in 60 communities across the country. And NCFL works a lot in the state of Kentucky through multiple funding opportunities. And our goal with these communities are really to align services for families. So we know that resources are often very siloed and that families are having to navigate a lot of systems. And what we're trying to do is work together in communities to align those resources so that families can have easier access and more opportunities to engage. I know I'm going quickly through this. We're a small group though, so if you need me to stop and you have questions, please feel free to either unmute or just put your hand up. For some folks who may have been around with us before, we started as the National Center for Family Literacy. And at that time, our president and founder at the time was working in adult education and really focusing on those basic literacy skills. She entered this work from that perspective, but quickly realized that we needed to include the whole family in this work, that those needs for families went beyond that basic literacy, that the greatest impact really occurred when we were not only meeting those literacy needs, but addressing the parents' goals and the goals that they had for their family and engaging the parent in their child's education. As the years went on, we evolved and expanded our name to really reflect that our work goes beyond basic literacy. We're talking, we broadened our reach to really in response to the needs of families. We needed workforce skills and really thinking about some of the opportunities that were, like I said, outside of those basic literacy. We created some additional resources and programming to position our work in communities in addition to schools. So historically, we were based a lot in schools, but we really expanded in the last 10 or 15 years into working more with communities. And now we're really working towards this vision to connect all of those resources and really center families as a part of this system and have their voice be at the table when we're designing our programming. I'm not going to go through this whole slide. You're going to get access to it, but we really want to make sure that we are enhancing family-focused solutions and community models where parent input is valued and included, so that we can implement these high-impact programs, capture those stories and those positive outcomes, and then really scale what we know works. So we know if we're doing that, if we're working together to hear what the community needs and find the programs that meet the needs of families, that then we're going to have a bigger impact, and that we will be able to help communities align and coordinate those services for children and families. So just really quickly, the work of NCFL is all grounded in equity-based co-design and strategic partnerships. So when we talk about co-design, when we're looking at programming, we're not coming in with a one-size-fits-all model. We're coming in with programming and frameworks that are customizable to the needs of the community. And we'll talk about what that looks like in some of our discussions as we go through. But we do that through family literacy. So family literacy's reach is from birth to adult. And we're really focusing on building skills of youth and their parents. We also work through family engagement, and a lot of that work is building capacity of schools to work alongside families. And then family leadership is really tapping into the leadership skills that exist with families and helping to activate that to bring families to the table and really help them focus on issues that they want to address in their communities, and also build capacity of partners to work with parents as they're building their leadership skills. So that's a little bit of background of kind of what the systems are that we're trying to create. And we also want to make sure that we're networking our communities, that communities are able to talk to each other and learn from each other. But through this grant, so the preschool development grant, we really have two funding opportunities that we wanted to bring to the table and dig into today to share with you. And then we'll share kind of what each of those are, give you the opportunity to ask questions, and then we'll share kind of what that application and selection process looks like. So as I said before, feel free to stop me as we have questions, but I will pause at the end of each section. So when we talk about family literacy, I'm curious to know kind of when you think family literacy, if you want to put in the chat, just kind of what comes to mind when you hear the term family literacy. Or you can unmute if anybody is willing to unmute and talk. Reading and writing, better reading skills. Lots of reading. A lot of times when I ask this question, I get, literacy nights or family events where we talk about literacy come up a lot. When we ask that question, reading together. So a lot of times when we say family literacy, that's exactly what we mean. It's families coming together and doing literacy activities, that they're practicing reading and writing skills. When we're talking about family literacy in the context of NCFL, we define it just a little bit differently. So when we talk about literacy, we're really talking about multiple literacies. So yes, we're always thinking about those reading and writing skills, but we're also including digital literacy, health literacy, financial literacy. We're using that in a broader sense to really focus on, that range of all of the things that families need. And the way that we do that is through our 4-component family literacy program. So our 4-component program includes adult education, which is what it sounds. Adult education could be workforce development. It could be GED. It could be working to learn English if that's a need that families have. 4-component family literacy also has parent time, which is a time for parents to work specifically on goals that they have for themselves and for their family. So parent time topics are driven by the parents and really focus on whatever the needs of that group of families is. Pack time is parent and child together time, and that's really bringing parents into the children's classroom for them to have opportunities to learn together, and then also extending that learning into the home so that families can take what parents might be learning in pack time and what children are learning in school and extend that learning to home. And then we always have children's education as a component. In many cases, that's school. That's when they're already going to school, that's their children's education component. If we're working with a community partner and children are not enrolled in, a public school system or maybe a preschool, sometimes that means children's programming that's available at that community partner. And our belief is that parents are their child's first and most important teacher, and that they're all coming to our programming with their funds of knowledge and their life experiences, and that they're bringing assets to the programming. So when we talk about family literacy, we're not only sharing information with parents, but we're giving the opportunity for parents to bring their knowledge to the table and really be able to share with each other and create a sense of community with our family literacy programs. So I'm going to dig a little bit into each of these components and what they would look like. Through this grant, we do have the opportunity to fund family literacy at a few sites. And if awarded, programs would be expected to offer all of these components. So adult education is really an opportunity for adults to work towards their learning goals in an adult education classroom. Goals are really the foundation of that learning. And it's really important as parents are enrolling in our programs for them to think about the goals that they want to accomplish. So that really drives the curriculum in the adult education classroom. And you can see kind of listed on the screen, and I know I referenced it on the previous slide, some of the service or the resources that we provide as a part of adult education, or that programs provide rather. So depending on the group, these are some of the focus areas of adult education and family literacy programs. And then parent time, that second component is really where parents are learning new skills, they're planning and reflecting, they're building those relationships that I had referenced earlier. That's their opportunity for their personal growth. So adult education is really focusing on their educational goals. And here in parent time, we're really focusing on supporting parents as their child's first teacher, and to reach their personal goals based on what they're interested in. This is where we talk a lot with parents about how to help their child in school. So, where their children are developmentally, how they can support with homework, how they can work to achieve their goals. So maybe they have a goal to buy a house, and we do some parent time sessions on credit scores, or how to, navigate certain processes. We might have a health and wellness, initiative, and this is all driven by the parents. So in our programs, we're asking parents consistently to share what they're interested in and then reflect on their experiences, and that parent time adapts based on the needs of the parent. And as I said, children's education is really any education that children are receiving. So whether that's in their classroom, in their normal school day, that could be before or after school programs, that could be community-based programming, but really any programming focused on children is falls under that umbrella of children's education. It really, as long as it's, based on research best practices and meets the needs of children developmentally. So then parents and children work together through PAC time. And this is really where the sweet spot is for family literacy. So we want to make sure that, like I said, adults are receiving the education that they need, that children are having those educational opportunities. But when we bring the two together, that's really when the magic happens for us. And that's where we're inviting parents into their child's classroom or into the programming that children are participating in, to observe their child and learn how their child is, observe how their child is learning and developing, and then really engage with their children in those activities. So in an early childhood environment, that might look like parents joining their child's classroom and playing alongside their child. In an elementary environment, that might mean parents coming into the classroom and joining a lesson, sitting right next to their children in the classroom. In community settings, sometimes those activities are, planned activities where they're going to go and do something together as a family or as a group with the program. But what we're able to do during PAC time is have teachers or other facilitators available to really model things for the parents, and then give them the opportunity to practice strategies in a supported environment. So all of us come with different life experiences, and not all parents have experience being in an early childhood classroom. And so being able to see it in action, but then have the support of a facilitator or a teacher to say, hey, here's a strategy that we use in our classroom, and here's a way that you can try it. And then being able to also debrief and reflect with the parents through that process, because it doesn't always go according to plan. And we want to make sure that we have that relationship and that open conversation through PAC time to really be able to support parents so that, they want to keep engaging and that they feel like they have the tools needed. And that doesn't mean that they have to be an expert in all the content that the teachers are delivering. It just means that they're engaged and that they're supporting and they're knowledgeable of what's going on. So again, the key points for PAC time are that parenting adults and children are interacting together. So parents are able to learn to support their children's language, and they're making those connections as a family. And really, with family literacy, all of those components are working together to inform each other. So none of these things happen in isolation. We're really looking at component integration. So when we're thinking about a family literacy programming, in any given week, all of these things are happening. So we have children going to school, we have adults participating in adult education, and then we also have adults participating in parent time and joining their child in their learning somehow throughout that week. So family literacy is our more intensive model when we're talking about the two options that we're sharing today. The expectation is about 6 hours a week for a family literacy program. So while children's education is going to be whatever the length of their school day is, adult education recommendations are at least 2 hours a week. Same thing with parent time and with that parent and child together or that PAC time. So just to kind of give you a framework and or a frame of reference of how that could look in a program. Now that doesn't mean that one person is carrying the load of all of those. In a lot of districts, they're working with a partner to provide the adult education component. But those are the expectations for a family literacy program, that they would operate throughout the school year and that they would be offering those components on a weekly basis. So I'm going to pause right there because that was a lot of information about family literacy and what it means to us. are there specific questions or points of clarification that are needed around what 4-component family literacy is? I'll keep going. Oh, go ahead, Mary Beth.
And it may be something other folks are wondering about. I think the pack time, the parent time, and the children's education kind of one feeds off the other, but the adult ed is very much dictated by the needs of the adults you're working with. And let's say it's somebody that needs a GED, all right? They could go somewhere off site. Am I correct or not? Should these services be offered at the school location, or can you partner with other people in your community?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of times there's partnerships with other folks in the community. So what it really comes down to is documenting what parents are doing. So, you know, in some cases you might have a whole group of parents that say we all need English classes, and then you either can bring a community partner into the school, whether that's a community college or, you know, another program within your district to provide that, or or they could be going out to a program or to receive those services somewhere else. But the goal is that they're having that opportunity, and that whoever the person is that is kind of the facilitator of the program or the glue kind of knows what's going on in each of those areas, so they can help make connections for families. So yeah, for example, in an English class that has happened, you know, one of the lessons in the English class was understanding how to read some of the things that are coming home from school. That's what parents were learning in their adult education English class. And that topic was necessary because the parents needed it, but that facilitator had their ears, you know, and eyes on kind of what the needs were. So they were able to tailor those lessons to make those connections. Any other questions or anything before we keep going?
Would you normally send out a survey to find out what the needs are for the kids, the parents that participate? Is that where you would get that information?
Yes. So typically at the beginning of the program, there's a survey or a needs assessment that goes out for the parents to see, you know, what they're interested in, what their needs are. It depends sometimes on the entry point. In some cases, schools have said, we have a lot of parents that need English classes, or a lot of parents that have said that they want their GED. And so they open up a program with that focus and they advertise that way. You know, we have this family literacy program. This is something that we're going to provide. In addition to that, you'll be able to do these things with your child. But in general, yeah, as parents are signing up, we ask what they're interested in. And that would drive not only the adult education opportunities that we connect them to, but how we set up parent time sessions. So a lot of times parent time involves a lot of guest speakers. It's not that one person is doing all that. We're pulling in people based on what they want.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, these are just some, you know, we know the impacts of family literacy, that we know that there are a lot of adults, that are reading below a 6th grade level, and that the mother's reading level is really a big determinant of their children's success. And our model is providing a framework to support families in addressing some of those needs. And then here are just some of the findings that we've had, you know, over the history of our program, some of the outcomes that we've seen in terms of increasing parent involvement in schools. We've seen improvement in children's attendance and academic performance, you know, also an increase in the activities that families are doing together at home. So the funding opportunity that we have through this grant for family literacy really can focus on children ages birth to 3rd grade. So this is a preschool development grant. The focus is early childhood. So we are looking for programs who are working with families that have children birth to 3rd grade. We have funding opportunities available for family literacy for 2 years. And I know these years are kind of tricky with a school year, but we're following kind of the funding schedule. It would begin in January of 2024. And programs who are selected to implement family literacy would offer 2 cohorts with up to 20 to 25 families per year. And as I said before, that program would be about a 6-hour-a-week program, and NCFL would provide fiscal support in year 1. That's $45,000 in year 1 and $30,000 in year 2. And that funding can go to support, staff time or anything that's needed to carry out the family literacy program. We do have an evaluation component, so the expectation would be that programs participating in family literacy would participate in our data collection and evaluation. So when we look at kind of what NCFL would do and what partners would do, NCFL provides a 2-day training. They also we have a coach that would walk alongside you to provide technical assistance in startup sessions. And then we also do coaching throughout the year. So if you were interested and you were selected to implement family literacy, there would be an NCFL team member that would walk alongside you to help you implement this program. We would also provide access to family literacy resources and have the opportunity to do an in-person visit where we're able to kind of observe programming and provide feedback. The partner role is to participate in the training, recruit the families, and really facilitate the program. So, a lot of times when we are looking at that funding, a lot of that goes to funding a person to be a facilitator for this work. And then, of course, participate in the evaluation and the data collection that happens throughout. So I want to pause again, and we can take as little or as much time as we need here, just to give you a minute to digest what you've been hearing and think about how our 4-component family literacy opportunity might align with the goals of your grant. And then again, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those at this time. Or Mary Beth, if I've missed anything and there's anything you want to add, feel free.
So if they recruit and only have enough participants for 1 cohort, is that all right?
I'm sorry?
Okay, the way what I heard you kind of share is that it's two cohorts per site. Is that correct? But
Yeah,
if they
so
only
one
have
per
enough
year.
participants for 1 cohort, or if they only have 10 families, sometimes when you get things off the ground, you have a smaller response, and then word gets out and things kind of pick up.
Yeah, so we would work to kind of support recruitment of those families. Our goal is that families would participate over the course of a year, but the minimum participation is 12 weeks. So if you don't have 20 families the day that you start your program, there is some time to recruit additional families to still meet those requirements of the grant. So, ideally, like I said, we would have families who can take advantage of the opportunity for a whole year, but they can kind of fluctuate a little bit throughout. And usually once we get a year under our belt, hopefully as you said, word will spread and we can recruit more, but that's something that we would just kind of work through together. If somebody said, we don't know if we can get families for a year or 2 or something like that, but that's a part of our coaching support, is to support with recruitment and also making some community connections if there's a need there for additional recruitment support.
Do you have schools that receive the grant and they start out strong and then those families start dropping off as the program continues?
Yes. I mean, yes, we have had that happen. You know, a lot of times then we're saying, okay, is the program addressing a need that exists for the families? You know, and so in some cases that means we have to pivot our focus or kind of rethink how we're offering the program. But you know, there's always some attrition. I think the key is really making sure that we're targeting families who need what we're offering, and that we're making the right community connections. But yes, I mean, there have been kind of both scenarios, right? Like some where we have a huge group of families that sign up and then they start to trickle off and we might have to regroup. And then we have some with a waiting list because, oh my gosh, you know, we have this resource, you know, let's all jump on board. But I think the keys there are really making sure that we know our community well enough to say, here's something that's like that people are going to want to sign up for.
That's a concern when you have a program and then nobody shows you've done the work. And I hear that through the frisk. Many say that, you know, have a great program, but nobody shows. So thank you.
Absolutely. And really also with this being upfront about the commitment, because it's a time commitment. You know, you're coming to school you know, every week for this program. And so that's where some of the partnerships can also come in. If there's already adult education in your district and they're already serving parents, you know, can we add these other pieces to that program to say, okay, if we maybe kept the adults a little longer, but offered them opportunities to engage with their children, could we add more resources to this existing program? So it doesn't have to be built brand new. It can also leverage some existing things that are happening.
Do you see the question in the chat, Andrea?
Oh, thank you.
Really good one.
Have any schools partnered with a high school? Yes, I can't say specifically a school at this point, but I know there have been some partners with the teen parent programs to provide, you know, resources. Yeah, I think that's an excellent approach to be able to provide those resources for them. Mm-hmm.
So they would be, that would be an option if I think that I did see somebody's from a high school that if they have a population of teen parents, I mean, what a great opportunity, you know, for that. So
absolutely. Okay. Any other questions before we move on? So I started with family literacy. Like I said, that's the more intensive program. That's a year-long program. We do have also we have funding for our playgroup model. So Play with Purpose playgroups are built on some of the learnings that we had from family literacy, but the commitment is not as long or as intense as what you see in a family literacy program. So Play with Purpose is a playgroup model or program that was developed by NCFL to reach families that have children either 0 to 3 or 3 to 5. So this is really focused on early childhood and focused a lot on child development and how families can support their children you know, through those stages. So each playgroup is led by a playgroup facilitator and serves about 12 to 15 families per group. And really what we want to do is provide those caregivers with evidence-based strategies that support children's development, but also give families an opportunity to connect with each other to support learning. So the goals of the program again are to support parents and give them the opportunities to interact with their children, you know, but also to increase those opportunities for them to learn from each other. So it's a lot like family literacy, but on a smaller scale. And the workshop components for our Play with Purpose playgroups are parent time and pack time. So when we think about all of the things that we focused on in family literacy, we've distilled this down to a time to share information with parents. This is very much focused on children's development in 0 to 3 and 3 to 5. So it's not as parent driven as family literacy. We have a facilitator manual that goes along with our Play with Purpose play groups. So those are already planned out based on what we know is best practices for early childhood and research-based strategies for early childhood. But it does have that parent time component, and then time for parents and children to work together and learn together. So the program structure is that there's time for parents to, like I said, receive the information and understand kind of the focus for each workshop. Then they prepare to interact with their children, and then there's time for them to work together through this playgroup model where they're able to have that parent and child together time, and then extend some of that learning that they're into the home. Excuse me. So that's the program structure in general. It also comes with access to an app. So our playgroups have access to Sparkler, which is a family engagement tool that helps parents understand some things that they can do with their children based on the ages and stages questionnaire. So what happens is when families come into the program, they take the ASQ, and then they receive activities based on where their child is that they can do with their children at home. So the playgroup in-person sessions are an opportunity for a facilitator to share information and let parents practice some of the strategies. And then the mobile app is a continuation of that program that kind of helps extend that learning for parents so that they can have access to parent tips and play ideas, when they're working with their children at home. And then providers have the opportunity to kind of access what parents are doing. So you can kind of go in and track and see, how many parents have accessed the activities and, when they've accessed them, things like that. So the focus of the Play with Purpose is, of course, to encourage play. And so we provide books and toys each week that you would be able to give families that they can take home with them to use as a part of this program. So we have the physical materials, but then we also have those opportunities for just anytime activities through the app. And I'm going to just kind of share an outline so you could see what this would look like on a weekly basis. So as we said, the Play with Purpose is a 9-week program. And so that could be 9 consecutive weeks. That could be, you could work that in to your schedule a little bit differently. Like if you needed to have a break, if there's a school break in there, there could be a little bit of a variance in there. But in general, it's a 9-week session. What you're seeing on the screen now is focusing on our birth to 3 content, but in January, we'll have the option to add a preschool component that will follow similar themes, but of course have age appropriate activities for 3 to 5-year-olds. So they always start with kind of a kickoff session where we talk about the program, we talk about the requirements, we give access to the app and talk about goals, and families receive kind of a welcome bag that they would get at the beginning of the program. And then as they go through, you can kind of see up here, those topics are based on, building those connections, reading together, thinking about language skills and talking to your child. So there's a lot of literacy focused activities. And then each week families get to take home, like I said, that book and that toy that goes along with that book so that they can extend that learning. And they receive this big, like a big canvas bag that they can put all their things in and take them back and forth to the groups. And so we get into, these are the last 5 weeks. And as you can see, the same kind of sequence of, they have that topic for the week and those accompanying materials. And then there's always a reading strategy that goes along with those workshops. So this opportunity targets ages birth to 5. It's also, the funding is available for 2 years. So our grant ends in December of 2025. So we would be able to provide these opportunities up until then. Ideally, we would like to work with folks who would be willing to offer cohorts of families. So maybe offer 9 weeks in the, starting in January, and then maybe do another session in the fall. But that once we provide this, that this would be something that partners would be able to offer a few cohorts of. For each 9-week session, we will provide a $1,500 stipend to support the program. So we will already provide the training and the materials, but this would be in addition to those other resources. And then of course we also have evaluation that is connected to that. So again, in this case, NCFL provides implementation training. Again, we'll have somebody that walks alongside you as you would be implementing these, or your facilitator. So and then we would provide the materials and a program visit. So NCFL would provide those resources, and then partners would participate in the training, work to recruit families, facilitate the play groups, and then participate in the data collection. In some cases, we've had folks who've said, oh, I want to partner with the library, for example, and worked with community partners who are already serving this age group to help with recruitment. So there are some opportunities also for partnerships there. So again, I'm going to pause, give you a chance to reflect, and then ask any questions. I know this is a lot of information at once, so.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If someone did decide to do this and they got the 1,500 stipend, can that be used towards food as an incentive to get families to come?
Yes.
Always seems to help.
Yes, food will certainly bring in families. Yeah, so it can be used towards food, really anything that is needed to support the program. These materials are available in English and Spanish right now. So that is something else to consider in terms of, in some cases interpretation is needed, and that's something that can also be supported that way. But the content is written in both English and Spanish.
Could it be used for transportation services if a family couldn't get to that? Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
Other schools that's done this program, did they find it successful to do it during the school day for those kids not in school, or is it better to do the program of the evening?
I think it depends on the population that we're working with. And a couple of them did it, or several of the groups did it kind of at the end of the school day as parents were maybe coming to pick up their children, because they were able to provide a meal. It kind of eliminated that barrier and also eliminated a second trip to come back. But there have also been some programs that have operated during the school day and really focused on parents that had younger children who were not working, and were available, not working during those times. I don't mean not working period, but who were available in the morning. So again, it was a survey to say, who's interested in this program, and if you're interested, what time of day, would you be able to participate? And then a lot of times the programs structure their time based on that.
Do you all have a survey you provide, or would we be responsible to create one?
Through the coaching, we can provide some samples of what, because as we work with programs, we collect that information, and we don't have a standard one that has to go out, but we certainly have examples that would say, we have some parent facing flyers that say, here's what the program is, here's what what we're providing, here's what you will get as a parent in this program. And then we add those questions kind of as a part of that process, that registration process.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions before I'm going to put some links in the chat that will take you to kind of a flyer that we have tried to consolidate all of this information into a 2-page kind of clickable flyer. So it summarizes a lot of what I've talked about today in terms of the opportunities. So we'll share this again in the follow-up to this webinar with the recording, but if you're thinking about this immediately, it summarizes kind of what family literacy is and what the playgroups are. So if you click on the little, well, I'll just pull it up. If you click on the little guides that are on here, it will take you to a more detailed description of what each of those are, so that you have that information kind of in one place if you want to share it with somebody else. All right, if there are no other questions, I'll kind of go into next steps and kind of what that process looks like.
Can I ask
yes.
one thing?
Sure.
Because it's not available yet, the information flyer for the Play with Purpose looks like it's just birth to 3, right? But they will be available starting in January for 3 to 5.
Yep. So it has both ages on here. It has the 0 to 3 and the 3 to 4.
Yes.
But what you see in the session description says birth to 3. Just know that the 3 to 5 or 3 to 4 will be similar. It just focuses a little bit more on kind of things that they need to know as they're getting ready for kindergarten. So there's some different concepts that are added, but as soon as that launches, we'll be able to share that information. Which is also a good point for me to add. You know, if you said, hey, I want to do this, I want to receive this funding and offer these groups, you would have the opportunity to choose, you know, I want to do a birth to 3, and then I want to do a 3 to 5. You know, you could offer those opportunities, you know, for both age groups. You wouldn't have to just commit to only doing birth to 3 or only doing the preschool. So I am going to share an interest form. So the next steps for anyone who's interested in going a little bit deeper with us to talk more about this opportunity and what this might look like. We have an interest form that I will share here in the chat in just a second. And then those will be open through November 3rd. So we'll have that interest form period available really for the rest of October. And then in November, our team is going to be reaching out to all the applicants to kind of think through, how, you know, if this is a programmatic fit, answer any questions. And then by December, we want to make sure that we're ready for training and onboarding. So I know December is a tricky month. We might not be able to train everybody in December, but our goal is to start programming at, you know, after the holiday break. So really have that programming kick off in January. Pull that link up here in just a second. I'm going to put the link in the chat, but I'm also going to share it on my screen so that I can just kind of explain what that interest form looks like. So this is not a, you know, a full grant application. We're not asking for, you know, a ton of information. What we really want to know is kind of who folks are and why they're interested in the program. So if this is something that speaks to you, you would just kind of put in your contact information and then select the program that you're interested in, whether that's family literacy or Play with Purpose. And then it'll take you through just a few questions. I mean, it's just four questions that we're asking you to answer, to share with us, you know, kind of why you're interested in the program and how you think this could work for you. So, I just wanted to give a heads up because I know sometimes these can be really long. detailed applications that take a grant writer. That's not what we're trying to do here. We just really truly want to know who's interested and what capacity do you have to take this on. So the Play with Purpose one, you need to make sure that you select the correct program at the top, and then it'll take you to the appropriate questions.
And it does say if you're interested in both, which, you know, the two could complement each other for sure. Because it's for up to 3rd grade with the family literacy, then you would submit two interest forms.
Yes.
Andrea, is there a limited number of stipends you guys plan to distribute, or?
Yes. So we have funding to offer 4 to 5 family literacy programs across the state. So that would be 4 to 5 programs that would implement for those 2 years. So that funding is more limited. For the play groups, overall, we have funding to offer 60 play groups over the course of the next 2 years. So we have a lot more opportunities for the play groups than we do for family literacy. And you could receive multiple, up to 4 rounds of funding for the play group. So we could have, one program that received that $1,500 4 times to offer that programming. But it is limited. That's why we're asking for folks to share their interests now, so that if you're interested, you can get on the list. And we'll be making those determinations here in the next month or so.
Andrea, there was another question in the chat about from Sarah, that if a family has children in both age groups, and I'm thinking especially if you have younger children and they're coming to a family literacy program with school age kids, can they bring their children with them that are not the target child, I guess?
For family literacy, yeah, I'm somehow have
well, or
lost
either
it.
way, but I think that's the most likely scenario, is that you have, because older kids would be in school, but
yes, they could bring their other child along with them. One of the things that we talk about in the training is options for childcare. So that funding can be used to pay for childcare, or, depending on how the program is structured. If they're really tiny, a lot of times parents are holding their babies in the program, but yes, other children are able to come. And we would just work with you, in the implementation planning about how to structure that time.
I know when we had the program at preschool, we just had fun taking turns holding the baby. Babies are easy, generally. It's when they're toddlers that they're busy.
Yeah, so programs that have the varied age groups, it has varied on how they handle that. In some cases, they have a partner that provides that childcare service, and they have another room available in the building where those children are. Or we've had some that have worked with partners if they're older children that are coming and the younger children are participating in programming. They've offered homework support during that time and had folks come in to work with the older kids. So I think it depends on, the ages, of course, and the needs, but that funding can be used to provide that service. Are there any other questions? I will put my email in the chat. And so if anybody has questions, or if you're just thinking about this later, and you want to reach out to me directly, please let me know. We can schedule a meeting, or you can just send me an email with your questions, but I'd be happy to talk through this in more detail with you. If there aren't any other questions, I think there's an exit slip. Is the exit slip coming out now?
Yeah, I'll do, I'll go ahead and stop the recording, and then Beth, you can go right ahead if you have anything you want to add. I'm gonna stop this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I